Hello and thank you for joining me. So it's the early hours of the 12th of November 2017, and I want to discuss briefly the poppy. If you're from the UK, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's basically a very important national symbol we have that's widely worn at this time of the year. Most of them are made from paper like this, and they are officially sanctioned by the Royal British Legion, which is a charity that helps veterans with a range of issues. Um, They are also, I believe, worn in Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, um, possibly other parts of the Commonwealth. I'm not 100% sure. Um, we mark the 11th of November because that is the day in 1918 that World War One formally, or hostilities formally ended. We call it Armistice Day, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. The war didn't formally end until 1919 with the Treaty of Versailles, and it's also important to say that it was the end of hostilities on the Western Front. There were men who died of their injuries well into the following year, and men who lived for years afterwards, still really fighting World War One with the shell shock and the horrible wounds that they received. Um, and in the Eastern Front, the brutal Russian Civil War broke out, and other conflicts like the Turkish War of Independence. But to all extensive purposes, the date is significant because it was the end of hostilities on the Western Front. Now, I don't want to give a long history lesson, but as I understand it, the poppy developed because on the battlefield at Flanders, in fact, I just have a little leaflet here from the Royal British Legion, the poppies were growing, and that had been the scene of some of the bloodiest fighting of the First World War. This year marks 99 years since the end of World War One. And in fact, this year, and I don't want to discuss this at too great length, but I think it is worth noting. This year actually also marks the 30th anniversary of another event, and that was one of the worst atrocities of the Troubles in Northern Ireland, when the IRA bombed the Poppy Day event in Enniskillen, which is a small market town in County Fermanagh. 30 years since that event, 12 people killed, dozens injured, and it was one of the most shameful acts of the Troubles. The condemnation was so great that even the IRA felt they had to make some sort of apology. But I'm also thinking of that event and thinking of the relatives who no doubt will be thinking of their loved ones. It was one of the most shameful acts of the Troubles. It's 30 years since that happened. Um, it's also this year 100 years since the Battle of Passchendaele. I believe I may have made a previous video about that. But basically, I want to talk a little bit about some of the politicization of the poppy in recent years, which I think is unfortunate. The red poppy is the one that's always generally been worn, but in recent years there's been the development of the white poppy. Now, to be clear, I've nothing against people wearing white poppies, but I think some of the rationale behind it is misjudged, or rather, is the initiative is misguided because it seems to me to be a statement of pacifism. That would be fine if the red poppy was actually a pro-war symbol. It's not. It's simply to commemorate people who have died in the Great War. So when people wear the red poppy, they're not saying we are pro-war. They're simply commemorating the fallen. My great uncle died at the Battle of Passchendaele, and certainly distant members of my family fell in World War One and World War Two, in the Korean War, and I even had one relative who fell in Vietnam. So distant relative, I should say. In Sunderland, where I come from, we always have quite a big event for Remembrance Sunday. I'll be going there in a few hours. There's usually a few thousand people turn out. We have an impressive memorial. Most towns and cities in the UK have one, but if I say so myself, I feel we have one of the most impressive. It commemorates the two world wars, but Sunderland also has a panel going from all the post-war conflicts, I mean post-World War II conflicts from the Korean War right up to Afghanistan and all the conflicts in between, and basically commemorating local men who fell. If you ever visit Sunderland, I do recommend looking at this. It's just beside the Museum of Winter Gardens. It's very impressive. I'll briefly show you something. You'll see there that I have a candle vigil. I do this at this time of the year to commemorate my family, to commemorate men of Belfast, to commemorate men of Sunderland, two cities that I really resonate with. I was born in Belfast and have grown up in Sunderland, and also some of the deadliest battles of the Great War. I um I can never have enough candles to remember every individual battle or every individual event, but I try to. I admit I'm quite sentimental about this because the sheer scale of sacrifice in the First World War was immense. Of course, the Poppy Day events are not just for World War One; it's also for World War Two. And now that all the World War One veterans have passed away, I think there's going to be increasing focus on the World War Two veterans. There's still several thousand of them, but the youngest World War Two veterans will be about 89 now. If you were 18 in 1945, you'll be 89 now, 90. Um, and then increasingly as time goes on, there'll be focus on Korean War veterans. So that's how the dynamic is going to change, I think, a little bit because all the World War One veterans have now passed on, and we can never forget such a profound event. But that human connection is now lost. When Harry Patch passed away in 2009, I believe, he was the last living connection to someone who had served directly in World War One, at least from a British point of view. So I'll leave it there. I'd like to know, how does your country commemorate World War One, World War Two? I know different countries do it differently. Certainly, I would say the United Kingdom is one of the countries that really does put quite a focus on it. There's a minute's silence across the nation. The Queen and other dignitaries, senior politicians lay wreaths at the Cenotaph in London, and it's quite a big event. Other countries, I know it's more low key. In Germany, it's certainly low key. France, I don't know about. The Commonwealth countries, it's quite a big thing. And I think in the United States, they have Veterans Day, which I believe is around this time of year as well. But wherever country you're from, let me know how your country commemorates it. And I'd also like to know if you personally wear the poppy if you're British. If not, why not? I personally feel no one should be bullied or pressured into wearing a poppy, but I think it's misguided to say that the poppy is a pro-war symbol. When I wear the poppy, I'm not saying I'm pro-war. I'm simply remembering the sacrifice of my distant ancestors and of all the men who fell. So let me know your thoughts, and thanks for watching. One last thing, the white poppy, someone said to me recently, is to commemorate civilian deaths. Certainly in World War Two, there were a lot of civilian deaths, and there was a lot of civilian bravery as well, especially during the Blitz. There was very brave men and women who saved many lives, won the George Cross. But I've never heard that being an explanation for the white poppy until recently, so maybe someone could clarify that. Certainly their sacrifice should be remembered as well. Okay, let me know if you wear the poppy, if you wear a white poppy or a red poppy, why? And if you don't wear the white any poppy, feel free to let me know why. But I don't think anyone should be pressured to wear it. But I think it's misguided to say it's a pro-war symbol. It's not. Thanks for watching.